welcome. Thank you so much for coming to this salon where we're going to talk about desire. And then we'll get a little bit into looking at this past year and looking forward into the next year. And I'm Bridget Boudreau. Some of you are new, so hi, welcome. I'm really glad you're here. So when I started creating the salon, and I've actually been thinking about doing this. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and it just took a long time for it to come to being. And as I was creating this specific one, I started with the idea that, I created this little worksheet that's kind of fun last year. And I thought, oh, we'll just all get together. I just wanted to get everybody together in community. We'll do the worksheet together. It'll be great. But then as I put it out there into the universe, and you'll see as I continue talking that this will be a theme, as I put it out there into the world, it started speaking to me. The salon started speaking to me a little bit. And what came back was that what can make these sort of year in review, looking forward things, one of the things that can make these feel really hard is just, it brings up any chinks in our relationship with desire, right? Because this is all about what do you want? What do you want to create? And that's really resonant for me because I remember years and years ago, I went to some personal development seminar with somebody, I don't remember who. And, on stage and the big, okay, everybody, what do you really want? And it was so broad and capital WANT, what do you want? And I thought, I have no idea what I want. And it just completely froze me up. And I spent really years kind of journaling around, what do I want? What do I want? And I can feel sort of desire inside of me, but I didn't know how to connect with it. So what we're going to talk about today is, I'll tell you a little bit about what I've learned about desire. You all will share some of what you're learning about desire, where you're at with desire. And then, together we'll hopefully make some headway. If your relationship with desire is feeling a little foggy or a little fuzzy, we can make some headway today. And really the worksheet is just a way to contextualize that, right? Well, that's a really big question. So actually, one of the things that can help you better connect with what you want is just asking a smaller question. Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh my gosh, let me just see. Hi, everybody who's joined since I started talking. I just had to do a quick flash through. Hi. Oh, this is amazing. Thank you for coming. Okay, so you all are naturally doing this, but just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. Please stay muted unless you're sharing. You can use the chat. We've already identified that. Have the worksheet handy, and also just a pen and a notepad or the notes on your phone. Or you can just scribble on the back of the worksheet or whatever, but just something to write down. And the other thing I wanted to say just about these salons in general is, one, I'll be doing these monthly-ish, and they'll be free, and they'll be around different topics, and they're really just a way for us to get together in community and kind of explore a topic. And also I love just working with people live and coaching people and having these dynamic conversations. So more to come of these. Okay, so one of my suggestions about this worksheet is, you may have other year in review or business planning or life planning efforts that you do this year, but I would love it if you really make this one about exploring your desires and letting it be more organic and less structured and less goal achievement, accomplishment driven. Let this one be a little wild. Let it be fun. Let it be whatever you want it to be. And that's why there's things like draw tarot or oracle cards, or I say, if you don't like any of these boxes and what the questions are, scribble it out, make your own question, right? That's also part of listening to your desire, is not being rigid about something that is given to you. I mean, this is such a simple thing, but it's like, make this what you want it to be. Julie, she couldn't print it out, so she just wrote hers all up. It's just, this is like you can use this as a microcosm to explore your relationship with desire in that way, that how we do one thing is often the way we do a lot of things, right? The one thing that I've learned about myself and kind of what I desire when I'm doing coaching things is I like to work in response to you, to what's happening for you and how it's landing for you, rather than me just kind of going linearly through my bullet points. So with that in mind, I'd like to just start by getting a sense of where you're at with your own desires right now. So if you want to just drop in the chat, like just a one word, my relationship with desire right now is, and just drop a one word response in the chat. Fierce. Yes. Julika. Testy. Barb. Powerful. Kim. Oh, hi, Kim. Yeah. Mine is confusing and frustrating. Becky. Expansive, aligned. Pat says M. I kind of get that. Struggle, Ellen. Lisa's having an open relationship with desire. That's not what she said. She said my relationship with desire right now is open. MIA, blurry, muted, conflicted, a bit unclear, but moving towards clarity. Unclear, non-existent. Yeah. Lisa, yes, I like other partners from time to time. Exploring, Jennifer. Okay. Crucial, Elsa. Yeah. Anything else? Tender. Yeah, Nancy says, I like exploring. Wow, thanks, y'all. Exciting, Julie. Let me just talk about a few things that come up and get in the way of us connecting with our desire. And then I want to dive in with a couple of you if you're willing to step a little further into my salon. So the list that I generated, just kind of off the top of my head, of the things that get in the way of our desire is perfectionism. And I have spent this past year in deep communion with perfectionism, and perfectionism, I could do maybe we'll do a whole other call on perfectionism, because I think that's another topic we can dive into, but it's so insidious. It's like needing to find the exact right words on my sales page, and continually being critical of my offerings rather than devoting myself to them. I think it's tricky, feeling like you need to learn more before you do the thing, right? So perfectionism is really insidious, but it's like if you have something you want, and it's like perfectionism is constantly moving the goalposts and preventing you from connecting with your desire. Then there's this other thing that I talk to my clients all the time about is something pings for you. You're drawn to something. A lot of people who became coaches relate to this, and you think like, this is it, or this is the relationship, or this is the job, or this is the opportunity, or whatever it is. And then you grab it so tightly, or this is the idea. You grab it so tightly. And by grabbing it tightly, I mean, you get attached to a certain form that thing is going to take. And then you grab it, and we do this way too early. So it's like we glom on to this particular outcome. And then it's like, it just slips through our fingers like sand because we're just grabbing it too hard. Similarly, like I was talking about at the top of the call, we're looking for big D desires and big W wants. And I think this is how the culture has presented it, right? Think big, aim high, go for broke, all these ideas that are about, play bigger in your life. Like a lot of you have been around personal development long enough to hear a lot, up to here about play big, not thinking big enough. And that was almost singularly one of the things that really derailed me from connecting with my desires. Let's see, getting overly attached to the form of the desire, thinking we can't have what we want. So again, if you get really attached to my desire looks this certain way, and maybe it's even like a particular person is going to give you what you desire, and it can only come from that one person. So these ways that we lock ourselves into the desire taking a particular form are what disconnect us from it. And then the other thing is we've been so busy meeting other people's needs that we don't even know where we begin. And then the other thing is we're tired, we're burned out, we're stressed. It's really hard to feel expansive, to feel curious, to feel creative when you've got nothing left. You've got no juice. I just said a bunch there, and I just want to check in, like, what's coming up for people? Are there other things that you notice that get in the way of desire? Is this resonating for people? Give me a little, drop some comments in the chat and let's see. Oh, more about desire. Desire pisses me off. Yeah. Keeps
Bridget,
me
may I
from
say
being...
something instead of typing it?
Yes, you
Or
may.
is that super disruptive?
No, go ahead, Julica.
Thank you. I'm at the point where I am cool with having desires. I am cool with going and getting them. But sometimes I think that the things that I want go against how I function in the world. So I want more order, but I'm a chaos muppet. That's my example right now. So there's like this next level of like, I don't want to fight with myself anymore. I want to accept myself, but I still want what I want. So now what? That's
okay.
My challenge right now.
So thank you, Julica, for bringing that up, because, you know, that's the thing is I think a lot of it's a puzzle. What we want is kind of a puzzle. And I don't think we view it as that. We view it as like a goal or a, you know, a specific manifestation. And I look at it as what's worked for me is looking at it as something I'm more in relationship with and I'm exploring. So Julica, I would put back to you, what does order look like for, did you say you were a chaos monkey? Muppet. I was like, I don't think I had that word right. So I think that's the exploration, right? And that could take you into next year's. Like, as I say that, what does order look like? What do you know about order right now? What are you craving? Dive down a little deeper into it.
Out loud with you, or is that my
if you want to, if you're not opposed to it.
No, I'll go for it. That's fine. Thank you. What I know right now is that it's repetitive, it's iterative, and I am craving a rhythm that I don't have.
Okay, so rhythm is already, we're getting like, that's a little bit more interesting than just straight up order. So it's gonna, and what is this like a rhythm through your days or?
Well, I'll share my vision and then I'll tell you where I am right now.
Okay.
My office is half office and half craft space. And I mean, you know me from Facebook. I am so creative. I am constantly making flowery things. And what I crave is a space where I can come in, play for a while, put it away, and go do the next coaching thing. Instead, I have beautiful, massive piles. And I can't create. I can't, like, I have to clean in order to create, and I don't have time to clean and create, and I don't want to clean, so then I won't do either. So now I'll go scroll on Facebook. Really?
Okay, so I think the place to start creating some wiggle room is you've set up this sort of dichotomy for yourself. I was going to say false dichotomy, but you can decide if it is, right? Like this, there's like this tension between creating and cleaning and coaching. It sounds to me like you have a specific, why can I not say specific today? Specific picture in your mind of what this is supposed to look like. I think you present this perfectly, because a lot of times our desires seem difficult or impossible to manifest, or at odds with who we are. Instead of mentally throwing up your hands and saying, well, I can't have it, the creativity comes in staying with it. How can I have these things that seem at odds with each other? That's the creative space. What am I going to put on this canvas? How am I going to bake this neck? Don't you do cakes and something? Like, how am I going to,
I do.
and I'm sure you do things that seem impossible or don't go together, and so this is the thing, is you have to stay in the tension of the impossibility of it. And then there's a number of things that you can do. You can ask for guidance. Let me be shown how I can be a chaos Muppet and have some rhythm and order that works for me. And it's just like staying. So you can ask for guidance, because what you're doing in that moment is you're attuning your attention to this problem. And when we just say, oh, I can't have it, it's like we've pushed it back away. Can't happen. I don't know how to do it because I don't see the way right now.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I'm pushing it away completely, but I do think my frustration is getting in the way, or I have
Yes,
a all or nothing dynamic about it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So thank you, because you really illustrated. I kind of want to go back through and make the points more cogently, but let me,
Thank you.
yeah, let me just, wow, you guys, I love the comments. Watch what you want, you might get it, Elsa. Yeah. Yeah, right. Again, this is that idea that we think that we know the form of what we want. We think we know how it's going to look, right? We think we know what it's going to be. And so then it's like, oh shit, if I get that, like, it's going to blow up my life, or it's going to blow up my friendships, or it's going to something, And again, it's just being with that. I'm going to, Julia kind of steal, there's like this chaos zone in desire where you want something, you have no idea how you're going to get it, you have no idea how it's going to show up, you think maybe unworthiness comes up, all the times in the past that you didn't get what you want. Like, we got a lot working against this. So this is a process, but it's like the more that you can let yourself kind of stay in that zone of chaos, because that's where creativity lives. And that's where, like, you show yourself, it's a commitment, it's a devotion to yourself and to what you're creating. Okay, hold on, yeah, Becky, sick of trying. Moving macro desires down to humankind, something personal and actionable. Too big, too much, too elusive. Yeah, Jill, I think that's a really good point. When you have something really big that you want to see happen, how do you pull that down? And I think it is the marriage of the small, simple things you're doing in your everyday life and how they marry up to that. And it's also, I think, about letting the actions that you are taking be enough. I think that can be really hard. Like, I should be doing more, especially when these big, global ideas, right? We're not recycling enough, we're not saving enough energy, or working hard enough, or whatever. It's just, we're constantly barraging ourselves with negative messages, which is not a great conducive atmosphere for desire. Myself with what ifs rather than heading down the path, maybe always looking for the next best thing without committing to anything. Paula, yeah, great point. And I'm going to speak to that too. Yeah, a lot of resonating. This is paralysis. Yep. Steph. Keep everything open-ended. Okay. Hold on. Oh, Paula, thank you so sometimes Paula said she wanted a sibling so badly, and then she lost her sister when she was 9 years old. And so I think we also have to really and I actually talk about this a lot in our house, how you come by your response to the world honestly. So desire can bring up grief. desire can bring up trauma. And the only way that I know through that is just being like so honorable to yourself and to what you've been through, and so gentle, instead of this harshness and this driving ourselves forward that a lot of us have been taught in the personal development world, or even business, smart goals and all this stuff that's just about pushing and accomplishment and achievement, holding yourself accountable. And, there's tons of language and teaching around how to get from A to B in life that's very much about driving yourself and kind of overriding your feelings and your emotions and all the things that have shaped who you are. So honor that as part of the process, and then honor it some more. You can't, I think we tend to think, oh, that's overindulgent, but all I know is that when I am kind to myself and compassionate to myself, and I can turn down the self-judgment, that's what starts to open the doors. Fear of rejection, ridicule for my desires, wants. It's such old trauma and I'm over it. Yeah. So I think the thing too there is if you're afraid of rejection or ridicule, is to go slowly. You don't have to push yourself off the cliff. What has helped me with desires that feel scary like that is I almost create like a space in my mind, or like this worksheet, or what I'm trying to do here is like, this is a space where you can imagine whatever you want. You can want whatever you want. And again, it's like letting yourself have that desire. And even if it has a specific form in your mind, but not, if you can suspend worrying about how you're going to be received, like that's a problem to be solved later when you're further down the road with the desire. But what I find is like, if you let yourself have it, get creative, it's going to evolve. It's not going to be the form that you thought it was going to be, or if it is that form, it's not going to play out like you think it's going to play out. So you have to put that separate. It's like when I work with writers and they say, well, I can't even write about this because I'm worried like people are going to be offended, or, my parents or my family or whatever. And the first thing to do is write the thing. In this case, you got to write it down. Part 2 or part 4 is worrying about publishing the book. So a lot of times we're thinking metaphorically about how to publish the book when we haven't even written the thing down yet and explored it. And so if you can kind of, this is where we can use our powers of denial for good and just sort of push that, kick that can down the road a little bit and give yourself a little space. Let me just systematically go through these points a little bit to reorient, and then we'll get back into audience participation. These are the things that have helped me build my relationship with desire. One of them is play small. So instead of this big if you have a big expansive vision for your life, great, wonderful, I love that. But even if you do, even if, I can't remember who was saying it, but was it Paula who, yes, has this, oh shoot, I had it wrong. Whoever you were that had the big vision, for impact in the world, it's still about coming back, playing small. What's the next thread to follow? What has your attention about that, and where are you going to put your focus? To me, it's about what really helped me start to connect with my desires were just simple desires in this moment. Like Steph and I last winter, we started drinking tea, just like having a little tea before bed. Simple pleasure, but really paying attention to that and like, oh yeah, I want that. I want to go for a walk. These little things, I need food, I need water, I need to stand up. Because the thing is like I said, desires to me aren't out there goals or things to grab and put in ourselves. This is a relationship with a part of ourself that wants. And we've, for a lot of reasons, stifled that relationships. Think of the part of you that wants as like kind of folded up and turned in on itself a little bit. And so what do you do? What do you do with that? Do you grab somebody and shake them and tell them to start delivering when you feel that way? No, you are gentle and kind and you listen. And when they whisper, you go, oh, I heard that. I got that. When they tell you something small, you hear it and you respond to it. So that's the beginning. You get to define your desires, right? So what is your fun? What is your beauty? What is your neatness, order, rhythm? All of these things you get to define. Another thing that blocks desire is we get a lot of messages in the culture about how we're supposed to be. So you have to dismantle that, and that's part of the creativity is, what does this mean for you? So in my parlance, connecting with desire is also noticing what pings for you. That feeling in your body, something grabbing your attention. Maybe it's not even a positive thing. Maybe it's a negative thing. Maybe you're angry at the political climate, or you're angry at that your neighbors don't recycle. I don't know what it is, but those things, if you start to pay attention, are pointing you toward what you desire. So that feeling in your body is like, oh, what is that? I'm curious about that. The other thing that Julia and I were talking about, if you can stick in that place of not knowing, that creative chaos, that's really key. And so letting yourself have that desire without knowing how it'll be fulfilled is really important. And what I found, like the unexpected fringe benefit of this whole exploration of desire, is that I was like, oh, this is where creativity and resiliency live. Like, the other thing that I realized this year that I was doing is every offering in my business, just the single one, I was viewing through the lens of success or failure. And mostly failure, because I always have like grandiose, 8 million people are going to do this. It's going to be amazing. So I started out really grandiose and like set myself up. And then of course, inevitably I fall short, so this is like, I'm like my own Lucy pulling the football away from myself every time. And then everything was never good enough. Perfectionism. Instead, what I started to do was devote myself to the path. So for me, my offerings, I'm not going to do a one and done. I'm going to commit to doing this thing and continuing to improve it and learn and show up. And then that's when the stuff starts talking to you and giving you the information, because you're saying, I'm here. I'm showing up for you, desire. And when I show up for you, when you show up for them, they will tell you more information. And when you listen, so that's how you start to create that relationship. And so then this back and forth that I'm doing is playing with the field. So you got to start with something, you start with what you know. And maybe you're like, okay, I want this, and I think it looks this way. Great. Whatever you got, start there. But then open the aperture of your perception, right? So like, even though I think it might look this way, or I think I want it to look this way, I am open to what's coming back to me.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Hat.
So I feel I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And resting is not helping. I spent all year resting,
Yep.
and it hasn't really helped. And I think that one of my things is I've been given so much. I have done so much. I have created so much. I have, and so I feel very happy with all of that. And adding to it, it just seems like it's not a judgment. It's not that I feel greedy or I don't deserve. It's none of that. It just feels like exhausting. Feels exhausting. And my sense of self is very diffused because of who I am and the work I've done. So when I'm giving to others, I'm giving to myself, and it's not like airy fairy. It's real to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any more to say than that. I feel like all of this sounds wonderful. I have a practice of kindness. I dance with the field. And I think that I need to shut it down more, or to get cozier more, because I think I'm blowing out circuits or something.
You know what also just comes to my mind, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and you can say that ain't it. But you maybe like, how do you feel about fun? How do you
I
feel about
love
having more
fun.
fun?
I love
How do
fun.
you feel about like frivolity, fun, like just doing, maybe like letting, I'm throwing this out there, but like letting the contributions that you've made be enough. And from that place, seeing what comes in. Because I could see where rest can start to feel like depression. Yeah, or stagnation.
Loneliness feels like loneliness.
Okay, so maybe what you're desiring is just not just, but connection.
To go out and play with people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do that, my friend. And you know what? You don't have to give anything, and you don't have to do a workshop or a call or an offering. You can just hang out. And I think like we also can't discount the pandemic, and how that's fed into whatever we had going on inside of us to start with, right? So gentle, gentle, gentle. But this is the thing too, is I just think we get so conditioned to, our desires have to be a something.
It's a level of toxic grief because I've lost so many people over in a lifetime. And we lost 6 million people in the world, 1 million Americans.
Yeah.
And I've done so much work with death and dying that it resonated a lot for me. And so I just want to,
Yeah.
I don't have enough tears to cry all out.
Yeah. So I think, again, just throwing this out there, that it may be giving yourself permission to do lighthearted things in a lighthearted way with lighthearted people.
I am a total goofball, so I think that's in my
More
wheelhouse.
goofball. All right, everybody. Hat's word of the year is goofball. You heard it here first.
Come over to my house, Hat. I'll play with you.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, this is my not so secret agenda is if you feel moved to private message or reach out to somebody, you feel a connection on this call, please do, because we're all so hungry for connection and for people that are traveling the path that maybe aren't in a way and with the other groups that we have in our life. And so more goofball for Hat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more points I wanted to hit. Desires are non-linear. So actually I love how this happens. Hat really just demonstrated that, it's about going and being a goofball, and a lot of times we just think it's work, it's my offerings, it's my calling, and I got to stay focused on that, and sometimes it's watching stupid TikToks or sending memes to your friends or listening to your favorite music or, laughing your ass off over dumb stuff. Like all of that is a part of it, and what's interesting is when I really let myself kind of depart those linear paths, it's amazing what pops up that's actually maybe more related to the path that you want to take or, where you're trying to go. So it's like the opposite sides of the pendulum, like don't settle for something that doesn't feel quite right. You can experiment with it and, see how it works out. But also, so it's like the opposite. It's this dynamic tension between don't lock in and don't settle. Stay creative. Notice where you already have what you desire, right? So I think this is a really big one, or where you're getting, so if you're having that mug of tea or you're out on that hike and it's just amazing, can you really, yes, dating your desires, not marrying them. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Rachel, damn, I miss laughing my ass off over dumb stuff. Like there's a big place for that in the world. And owning what you love, kind of to Stephanie's point, it's like, if, you like I don't know, I don't even want to use an example. Like if you like something that's not to everybody's taste, that's fine, rock out with it. But give yourself time to become the person that can rock out with it. So if you aren't there at the beginning, that's okay. You can, if you're exploring something and you're like, you can make it your private exploration. You get to have your privacy until you are ready to go public, or you may never go public, and that's all fine. Like that, you get to have your preferences. You get to have the things that are cool for you. Okay. Yeah, the other thing is, if you're feeling burned out, rest first. But to Hat's point, sometimes you've been resting for a long time. So you just have to feel into that, but it really is hard to connect with your desires if you're feeling burned out. And then sometimes the first desire is laughing at dumb stuff, or, eating a great meal, or just these simple pleasures. Yeah. Childhood stuff, kids. So it's not to someone's taste. So I think too, just recognizing as you start to connect with your desires, it's going to bring stuff up, and that's okay. And if you need to talk to a therapist, talk to a coach, talk to a friend, somebody who can be a compassionate witness, and just having that compassion for yourself, and knowing that, this is the thing, is that it's not easy or clear, or it's not easy or clear, this connection to desire. There's a lot there. And so that's kind of one of the main points that I want to get across, is there's a lot there. So let it be a process of rekindling this particular connection to yourself. All right. Becky, how would you feel about stepping into my parlor for a minute?
Sure, as long as you don't look at my hair.
I won't look at your hair.
It's bedhead.
It's great to be semi in person with you. So, okay. So the last thing that you said is, I get confused because brand new unknown desires are smacking me in the face and I don't know where the hell they're coming from. And then I kind of flagged up higher in the chat that there was so I'm sensing there's a little bit of a fraughtness with desire. So kind of after all this blah, 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 what's coming up for you at this point?
Well, I did so much work and I worked with Jack Canfield, who was like, set a goal, reach it, don't go to bed until you reach it. And I knew I did get some cool stuff from that, and I took from it what was good and all of that. I'm not buying into all of it, but I feel like since birth, I've been trying to force myself to be this way that we aren't naturally, organized and non-ADD and all these things.
Oh my God.
And
oh my God. Who has
now
ADD on this call? I don't, but I know that there are a lot of people do.
And who's affected by the national shortage of ADD medicine? Because my brain is going right now.
Yeah.
So I apologize if I'm all over the place. What was I saying? I forgot what I'm
Okay, Jack Canfield goals.
Oh yeah. So
okay.
the whole set a goal, write it down, make the steps, and I come from corporate engineering. So it's have a whatever the hell the tracking software, the project, Microsoft project. It's I almost want to have a project where it's feel good today, tomorrow, take the action. It's just so ridiculous the way my brain is programmed in logic, in engineering and math. And it's even though I hate math and I burnt all my textbooks ceremoniously and everything, I still am trained in logic, plus people think that way, but it's okay, I have a problem. What's step one? And it's stop it. Can't I just have the second I tell my husband, oh, I just had this feeling that this woman had a feeling in her chest and she said, yes, she did. Okay, how can we monetize it? And I'm So everything goes from 0 to 100 if I share it with the closest people, and then I just get so burnt out. God, I can't remember I was maybe 10 the first time I thought to myself, if I knew what I wanted to do, I would go do it, and I said that all through engineering, and here I am, this all coaching and everything feels really juicy, but I'm still not doing it. So it's I'm still not going for it in the way that I know I want to. And
Yeah.
then so I just kind of backed the hell off of it for a minute, because I'm like, you know, like it's just not, when I'm in a session, I feel alive. And when somebody says to me like, oh my God, you're helping me, blah, 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 that feels juicy. When I'm helping someone, when I know what to say, that's amazing. But when I'm out of it, it just feels like something more. I'm supposed to do something more. And I don't know if that's a trauma response or if that's actually true. Because maybe you know what I mean? Like, am I always going to think I have to do better, bigger, more, you know? Or am I really longing for this shit? Does it make any sense?
It totally makes sense. Sorry, I'm trying. There's a weird echo, so I'm trying
Oh, let me
to.
put a headset on just in case.
Okay.
I have like 12 dogs. I just got attacked by wild dogs in my office, so let me shut the door. They weren't
Yeah.
really wild.
Yeah.
Is that any
Jill
better?
says, Jill adds here, in my experience, that's a trauma response. But I think it's like several things getting kind of fused together. It's desire. I do think our soul calls us forward and we do have this innate desire, right? But then I think it gets fused with trauma and it gets fused with like capitalism, and all the societal, cultural crap that, so set a goal and do the steps and monetize it and da da da. So Becky, what you were saying about, you have this amazing moment with your client and then it's like, how can I monetize that? Right. So what I would say is what I've had luck doing is you want to use your intelligence, you want to use your engineering brain, but put it in service of this sort of looser, fruitier approach. And so what that would look like is like, instead of how do I monetize this, just staying curious and staying open. So how do I create more of those moments, or just experimenting like, oh, the next client I talk to, I really want to feel into that, and what's mine and what's theirs. And this is hard, right? Because you want to build a business and you want to create something. And I know this is so
and I want it now.
And you want it now, but it's like the paradox is like being a learner, being curious and exploring is the way to make it happen now. So I'll tell you just an example from my businesses. I got really into my head stuff with laugh for my whole life, partners here. But okay, so you're doing something that's really precious to you. I'm sure whether you're a coach or not, I think people can relate to this. Like usually things that we desire are things that matter. And so they're really vulnerable, they're really tender, and we want them so badly. And we really are like those little kids when we want it and we just squeeze it, So it's like, instead, put your engineering brain in service of like, when do I feel really good? Like letting yourself learn your craft and be a crafts person. So learning your craft can be, so that gives you room to explore, right? So it's like, oh, when do I feel really good with clients? When do I really feel plugged in? What do I need to do for myself? Like how does that work for them? And then like talking about that without making an offering, without.
I always want to jump to like, well, I suddenly realized I like the color purple. I should probably, offer a class about purple.
Yeah. Yeah. And
really...
so it's like letting yourself have more of the exploration of purple than jumping right to, and instead of doing a class about purple, talk about purple a little bit first. What do other people have to say about purple?
I really don't want to do a class about purple, right?
I'm brilliant. Do it.
Well, like, can I just, I'll shut up after 1 second, but I just wanted to share an interesting story related to this. So like, I've always been a hell no public speaker, hell no. But the only public speaking I ever did was like an engineering design or like an engineering presentation at work. And I was not a good engineer. I was like taking someone off the street and shoving a whole bunch of math down their throat and then pretending to be an engineer. It was awful. And so like, that was always hell. And then I spoke at my son's wedding reception in September, and I was on fucking fire. I was like a stand-up comic. And I was like, where is this coming from? I mean, I felt so natural. I mean, there was 200 people I don't know in the audience, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this. And then I'm like, wait, what? You want to do you want to do speeches for sons at weddings? Like,
right? But do you
that's
see,
not a
like,
career.
okay, but that's a total, I love that because it's a total example of what we're talking about here,
And I
right?
can't stop thinking about it. I have to speak, and I don't, that's scaring the hell out of me. So I'm in hiding.
Okay, so let me just break that down a little bit. So
Please.
you had this concept of public speaking, right? And I have too, like standing up at a conference or doing a PowerPoint or a TED Talk or something. And I was like, stab me now. I can't do that, right? So it's almost like when we first think of something that we desire, we almost inevitably cast it into impossible to have reality or something that turns us off, right? So that's where you stay with it. So you just kind of stumbled into speaking at the wedding and that really resonated for you. So now you're on the track, but then you did something after that that was like, oh, what am I going to be? A wedding speaker, right?
Yeah, we became
So
joking about it.
this is
Like
where
my son's like, my friends need a mom.
this is where we narrow things too quickly, right?
Yes.
So it's like what you want to harvest. So when you start exploring your desires and experimenting, and what you would want to do is experiment more with, like, in your mind and also in the world, with what kind of context you like speaking in, and so you can take from both of those experiences. Well, I didn't like this. It's a topic I don't like. It's too formal, whatever. And then you can take from the one that you did like, it's extemporaneous, I get to be funny, I can feel really myself, whatever those things are. And that starts to give you the ingredients for creating the thing that's really going to fit you, that you really want. So that's how to stay. And you're going to bounce over oh, that sucked, I hated that. This one was great. Then I grabbed onto it too tight, and then all the air went out of it, and then I let it go. I mean, this is the process, right?
It's a perfect example of not knowing what to do with the desire that is bigger than.
Except for the next thing, which might be, maybe you're like, I'm going to take an improv class, or
No, hell no.
or not.
Everything terrifies me. Everything beyond this terrifies me. Like,
so
and
then,
it's scare sighting, but I mean, it's.
Yeah. So then it's just like, come back. So you want to like get back closer to yourself where you are. So if everything scares you, just keep coming back to, so you revisit the wedding and what felt so good and comfortable. Maybe it's just, I'm speaking around people I know love me. So I want another context to speak. And I'm just making something up, right? I want another context to speak in where I know people love me. And so how do I create that, right? And then stay with the question, just stay with the question and see what comes back to you. So you don't have to be in a hurry either. But the thing is I find this is the fastest way to go. Like, once you start moving this way and really listening to what's coming back to you and being with yourself, so you don't have to force yourself to go do a TED Talk. You don't have to force yourself to do an improv class if you don't feel ready. Now you can feel, so let's say, just for example, improv class, and you're like, hell no. But maybe, like you said, then you can sit with it and be like, well, am I scarce-sighted? Do I really feel drawn to it? And then maybe you need to learn about what actually happens in an improv class. You know what I mean? Thank you, Becky. You devote yourself to the desire, right? Oh, I'm going to follow this thread, that lit me up. And it doesn't mean you have to get up every day and work on, but it's just like, I'm going to commit to following this and see if I can find a next step. And the other thing is experiment, right? So we think we have to decide. So that's like in the coaching world, when you go directly from idea to offering, that's not really an experiment. Like it can be, but there might be interim steps in there that are lower risk that you can experiment and get more information. And so whatever it is you're doing, you want to be thinking about that. Like, how can I experiment and get more information? Thank you, Jill. Okay. So y'all, I had a feeling that I wasn't even going to get to the worksheet, but I wanted to tell you that doing this work, having this conversation, my entire intention is that it makes doing this easy and fun. And so if you look at this worksheet through the lens of what we've been talking about here, then the retro side, the orange side, this is all about like giving yourself clues about what you want. You know, what do you want to experience? What do you want to explore? You know, what worked this last year, what didn't? So look at this worksheet from that lens. And this is all about like information. So there's no evaluation, there's no grading. This is just like, oh, good to know. That really didn't work. That really didn't feel good. This felt good. Oh, this really piqued my interest. So that's this side. And then you take that and you use that to inform this side. And so just really quickly, based on this conversation, there's this box right here, things I'm curious to explore. If you all want to just drop in the chat, like, what are some things you're curious to explore as a result of this conversation? Anything? Oh my gosh, here it comes. Reading my writing out loud to a group. Beautiful. Community building. Teresa, you're well on your way. Gentle devotion to my desire. Curious to explore improv, Jennifer. So you may have little buddies. Speaking, writing, making videos. Break it down, break it down, break it down. Kim, more collaboration with the idea that it can be fun, playful, and expansive. Yes. Exploring my relationship with desire, being curious about what's possible, how to best support my mom. See, these are, you know, sometimes these are actually maybe issues or sticky parts that we want to find creative solutions to. How to do everything as a Taurus in creating an oracle deck. I'm with you, Taurus. My human design, that's okay. So Taurus, oracle deck, human design, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, you know, whatever. Like, I also love doing those self-evaluation things to give you more information about yourself and how you move through the world. It's great fuel for this kind of work. Intimacy, awesome, Jennifer. Yeah, that one, you know, in the intimacy category, you can really run into a lot of the things I've been talking about here. So just go gently, you know, and be really good to yourself. The parts of me who want different things. Yeah. Sometimes that's a little good old fashioned parts work and talking to those different parts of you and seeing if you can negotiate a détente there. My husband is a Taurus. All right. Okay, everyone, I want to be respectful of your time. I just wanted to say really quickly before we all jump off, and then I will hang out a couple minutes after. So if any of you want to chat more, I'm happy to do that. Most of the ideas that I taught today come from my Mosaic Life Mapping framework. And so if you do want to dive deeper into that, I do have a self-study course that you can check out on my site. And also, the Mosaic infuses all of my work. So whether you work with me one-on-one or you get into a group like the Groove Kitchen, the Mosaic is an underpinning for everything I do. So if you wanted to dive in any of those ways, you'd be getting more exposure to this kind of teaching. Yeah, I'm super grateful you all came. I'm going to conclude this part here. And like I said, I'll hang out for anybody that wants to chat a little bit more. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So, anyone have any other thoughts or questions or want to step into my parlor for a moment?
I don't want to be the one that won't shut up, so I'm going to give somebody else a chance first.
All right, y'all, you heard it. Either jump
Can I
in.
just make I just had a thought about this idea of being an apprentice when you think you've learned it all, or you should know it all, or you have all your degrees, or you have. And I was thinking about, I've been doing a lot of tarot, and the pages of the tarot are the apprentice, but that means they've gone through step, 1 through 10 before but they're not the king. They haven't, it's not an it's a stage of humility somehow, but also of acknowledgement of I'm trying to apply that to where I am, which is why I'm bringing it up. But you're talking with Becky made me think about it too. Like, how do you start over? How do you, be the plebe? How do you, start over?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think of that too as being like a devotee, so I think you said everything. It's a humility. I remember when I was a new coach, so talking again about perfectionism, I just really thought that I needed to know what I was doing, that I had it all together. And I just hugely got in my own way with my clients, because of course I got attached to their outcomes because I needed them to be happy and I needed them to have all these results so that I could feel good about myself. And when I let myself be a learner as a coach and not know where the conversation is going next, or not feel out of my pay grade, and I could just say to a client, I feel out of my pay grade here. I would really recommend that you go see a therapist. And then what I realized is I'm actually being of best service in that moment by being a learner, by being humble, And so I think to me, it's an attitude to adopt and to keep top of mind, and it can be, I think being humble can be humbling.
But also there's no measuring stick. I think that we're so used to having some kind of way to measure. I got to the end of the day the other day, and I like to review my day, right? Even that process, it's like, what did I do today? What do I feel good about? What didn't work? I like that. I think I like that process, but I did all these great things. I could have, and I was like, oh, it just doesn't feel like anything.
Well,
just doesn't feel like I'm, like, what's it adding up to? It's adding up to a life. Well, am I ready to check out right now? Or do I feel, or am I going to be going, oh, I didn't do, or I didn't, mostly it's like, I can't find the right perspective or the right vantage point for this new paradigm that you're sort of describing about goals and about process. I guess I'm used to, I think of myself as not competitive and stuff, but I can't find I need stars, or I need, like what? Like,
well, give yourself stars for different things, like you can measure. So this is kind of like I was talking to Becky, so you don't have to, because I think exploring, do you really like measuring things? Is it just enculturated? But there can be that can be really satisfying. And so the creativity could come in, how are you going to measure your days, and versus accomplishing goals. And maybe that's just fine, but maybe you come up with something different that's a lot more satisfying. And I think too, a little bit of the perfectionism showing up there, and just letting it be enough. Oh my God, we're just I don't know about y'all, but just
it feels like there's
ourselves.
something else. It does feel like there's something. It's like standing in the portal, and there is something else, and it's spiralic, or whatever, however we're going to measure now. It isn't the old way. It doesn't matter if I give myself stars. I can't, if they don't add up to anything, they're like that. Just, it's like a little, I want to let go of that stuff, but I can't. It's just that the new thing hasn't come. And
yeah, I think it's
I like what you're saying. Explore it,
yeah,
explore
you're in
measurement.
process. So the humility here would be with this very thing, is to let yourself be in process with this, and I do think we have this internal fire inside of us. And I think there's a lot of enculturation and trauma that gets in the way of us really knowing how to connect with that work with it, be fueled by it. I don't even know. I'm like, I feel like we're in a whole other discussion of like, how do you deal with that? And I
What's
think,
satisfaction even?
yeah, I
I mean,
know for me, it's like feeling it there, letting it be vague, being delighted when something that feels like a piece of that shows up. So this is like the mosaic, right? So this is why I use the metaphor of the mosaic, because the mosaic is about, let's say you're making a mosaic, you don't know exactly what the pattern is, but you start with the pieces. Oh, I like that beach glass. I like that pebble. I like this button. I like this weird goose figurine. I don't know, but it seems like it wants to be there, and you start just assembling the pieces, and it's sort of like, where do they want to go? And you just get to decide what your mosaic is, but the picture of what you're creating is the very last thing. We don't start to get, or maybe we just get a sense of one part of our mosaic, right? And what that's going to look like. And for me, this has helped me make peace with that feeling, and then I can know like, oh, that's part of my mosaic. Do I know where it fits or how to monetize it or what to do with it yet? I have no idea, but I can feel that that's a piece. Yes, you will take your under construction mosaic to your grave. Yep. Maybe we'll just put all of our incomplete mosaics on our gravestones. Anything else? I just am loving this conversation.
This is kind of outside of the scope of what we're talking about, but a big thing for me is I say it with like because I do it so much and I live it, but like if something's, for me, the idea of public speaking is like terrifying. But when I sit with imagining myself doing it, and this is no different than like nervous system work or manifesting or whatever the hell you want to call it, but I sit with how it's going to feel and like process that so that I stop blocking it, because I'm so good at shutting it down. Nope, I don't know how to speak. Oh, I had half of a White Claw. That's why I was comfortable. Or, the guy in front of me talked about Jesus for 35 minutes and people were doing drinking games. So no matter what I said, I was going to be golden, after that shit. And like, what if I just let it be fun? What if I just acknowledged that was fucking fun and I was on fire? I'm laughing at myself, but
and
I felt amazing.
Redefine public speaking.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're saying, and maybe I'm projecting my own experience because I did this for so many years, but it's like, when I said public speaking, I had a very specific connotation of what that means. I'm at a conference, I'm doing a PowerPoint,
Something I don't like.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I hate that. But then like I used to, do these larger events and I would end up emceeing them. And I loved it. I loved emceeing these events, And so it's exploring with the speaking, and maybe not even calling it that, because there's lots of kinds of public speaking, right? This is public speaking. Technically.
Right. And this is something I wouldn't have done 3 years ago. I would have sat in the corner with my video off and hid my face. And so
yeah. So
I'm
I
feeling
think
good about that.
for you, it's like redefining what public speaking is for you. And that's, it's not a one and done. It's like continuing to redefine it and then exploring the things that do feel like a yes. And you don't have to scare the shit out of yourself out of the gate. Now, there will be times where you choose to scare the shit out of yourself, but you don't have to put yourself in situations that don't feel right now.
Right.
And that's what cuts us from the desire is we
I stop it before I let it. Yeah. I'm like, oh no, that'll never work. Never mind. I don't have that desire. And it's like, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So it's like, just stay there. Just stay there.
But I'm impatient, damn it.
I am telling you, because I am impatient too. Like, this is the best way to go fast. And also what I love about this way is I don't have to wait until I get to some eventual place to feel fulfilled or like I'm sinking my teeth in. I get to sink my teeth in now, to whatever I decide is in front of me, whatever the next step is. And it's like, oh, I get to sink my teeth into that. I don't have to wait. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. Couple more minutes. We'll go at like quarter after here. Anything else for the good of the order?
I just want to say,
Lisa,
like,
and then Barb.
yeah, I just want to say, like, this conversation is really great. And what all of this is bringing me back to is my human design, when I've learned about that this year in Groove Kitchen, which, by the way, if you haven't done the Groove Kitchen, and like Bridget did not ask me to plug, but I'm totally plugging, like, the best thing I've done for myself all year. But, you know, what's really like coming up for me, and I love what Hat just said about dancing with the mystery, that it really is that, right? Like, it's like that grace of just taking one step and moving in time with whatever is happening regarding that desire in the moment. And so much of it is just about staying present and curious, like you're saying. So it's like, I know all of this, and yet
Down.
hearing this here and listening to everyone speak, yeah, it's bringing it down into my body. I feel so much more relaxed. Got all these like questions now coming up, like, oh gosh, okay, I can, instead of being like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. It's like really just leaning into that curiosity and asking really great, you know, questions about what's happening in that moment without trying to force it down the road. And Becky, I could totally relate to you, like, maybe like, you know, 200 miles down the road from where I am, and just like to keep coming back to that. So I just want to say thank you, because for what everyone has shared, and Bridget, for your leadership and facilitating this conversation, because I had no idea how powerful this would be. I just knew, like, oh God, my relationship with desire is fucked up. I need to be there. I need to be there. So yeah, thank you to everyone for your contributions here, because wow, it's swinging open those doors, and I feel my attachment to desire just dropping. Right? Just feels really good.
Thank you. All right, let's hear from Barb, and then we'll wrap it up until next time.
I just wanted to say, I think that's the first time I've ever drawn a tarot card in my life. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I got the Magician for the theme and the guidance.
Oh, just in case you missed the memo.
Exactly. So I'm curious about all of that. I've been curious about tarot for a while. So anyway.
That's a fun thread to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Barb. I am so grateful you all came. Thanks for staying for overtime. And yeah, I'll be back here next month sometime, and we'll talk about something else. All right. Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.